So let's dive right in. So for today's agenda, we're going to keep things fairly fast-paced and keep it to about a half hour. And then I understand people have other things scheduled, so definitely drop off whenever you like or at the 30 minutes. And for those that want to stick around, we'll do a bit of Q&A, and I'd love to hear any insights or thoughts or questions from the group. And then next week, we will send around a video transcript of the event. So getting into a quick little bit of background about myself, I started doing marketing for consumer software way back in 2001. And then in 2007, I founded Plus ROI Online Marketing. We serve clients across the US and Canada. And we're now, gosh, it's 2024, so we're in our like 8th year of being a Google Premier Partner, which means that Google has actually acknowledged us as being in the top 3% of Google agencies in the country. And that's something we're really proud of, particularly in that we're quite small to be in that status. It's mostly large agencies that get that status. So yeah, we're pretty pleased about that. And then in 2022, we formed What Works Marketing, a new company that basically doesn't do the same kind of sort of national and international campaigns, but works more on helping smaller service businesses win more clients. Totally different model, and it's been a whole lot of fun and going great so far. So again, without further ado, let's keep moving. A couple quick notes is really this webinar is targeted at entrepreneurial companies with sort of normal budgets and companies that focus on return on investment within a reasonable period of time. We're not targeting Fortune 500 companies with this webinar, where they might be looking at activities that will make them money like 3 years out. In most entrepreneurial companies, it's kind of like, oh, what's going to make us money this year sort of thing. So that does definitely change the practices a little bit. Definitely some exceptions to the information I'm sharing today, particularly with the stuff that I'll share that doesn't work anymore. And basically, I see over the course of a year, I see marketing under the hood for hundreds of companies, and we work with a ton of other agencies. So basically just sharing practical information on what we're seeing happening, and a couple minor caveats as well. One is that there aren't really any shortcuts. If your product or service doesn't sell and isn't sort of matching up with the product market, the product matching up with the market, marketing isn't going to help it. And along those lines, even if your product is a good fit for the market, all the stuff we're going to talk about needs to be executed really well to make it happen. Things are really competitive now, so I'm going to say there are some very rewarding high value wins, but it all takes a little bit of work. And I'd also love to hear your own examples when we get to the Q&A. So let's run through some of the different marketing areas. So search engine optimization, SEO as it's known. In one sense, it's kind of rest in peace for the traditional SEO. I mean, everybody should be doing their website and offsite best practices, but it's gotten really competitive, and there's very little emphasis on, at least in a bunch of industries, very little emphasis on what we consider the SEO results in search. And we'll see that more a little bit later as well. But what does work really well these days still is if you do have reason to be marketing locally or within a region, there's lots of local SEO opportunities, including proactive management of your Google and other business profiles that can really make you stand out. And in some industries, there are still quick wins in that. And then, as much as I just said it's dead, traditional SEO can really work well if you're either in a low competition industry where the competitors aren't doing great, or if you have a really clear strategy that considers that competition. And also, this is especially like you're unlikely in the competitive environment. If you're a smaller company, you're unlikely to rank for some of the hottest, sort of highest volume keywords in search. But that said, there's lots of lots of sort of higher funnel keywords that can absolutely you can rank for. And also, of course, again, if you're looking at if your product or service isn't location specific, then these results are also a bit more prominent. So just looking at a couple examples here. So on the left here is actually a great example of how the search engine optimization doesn't have necessarily a huge impact on the initial search results. In this example for searching for a chiropractor, the only results that showed up on my computer screen were search ads. Of course, I can scroll down and down below. Typically, usually you'll see the map and what we call the local 3-pack, and it's even below that area that the search engine optimization results kick in. So that's kind of why I say it's not so powerful anymore for a lot of companies. And then over on the right is an example of local search is what showed up at the top of my search. I searched marketing company near me. I'm searching from our location, so I'd be really shocked if we didn't show up first. And that noted, that's a big reason why smaller companies can compete with larger companies with local marketing and local SEO is that a lot of it, especially the prominence around the Google Business Profile, has to do with where you're located in relation to the searcher. So even a bigger competitor isn't going to beat you if you're closer to the searcher. So again, tons of opportunity in the local. Social media marketing, it's interesting area, but yeah, it is pretty much rest in peace for basic social media posting, at least without a really in-depth strategy. Platforms like Facebook have totally removed, especially as a business, have totally removed your organic reach to the point where it's debatable whether it's even worth posting unless you're promoting your posts. And then what does work really well is private social media groups. That's an area where Facebook specifically is still quite relevant. I'll have a look at a couple examples there in a second. And also still, there's lots of opportunities on Instagram or LinkedIn or even just about any of the platforms to do networking as an individual. So if you want to meet people in the industry that you're working in, definitely lots of opportunities there. And also, on that posting front, it is possible to succeed with posting, but you really need to do a few things that include defining your audience, identifying what sort of content they'd be willing to follow you for, identifying the platform that has the lowest competition for that audience, and then basically developing a promotion strategy to get that sort of flywheel moving and get followers and win followers. And it's a lot of work, but I mean, technically it can work, but again, doing posting without a clear strategy is done. So just a couple examples. These are actually two private groups, both on Facebook, both of which I belong to and follow. And one, the admin bar, is for web developers, and I'm not technically a web developer myself, but we do a lot of development, so I stay in touch with it. Private group with 9,000 members. I know the founder of the group. I know for a fact that managing this group generates more business and more opportunities than he can possibly deal with. So great reward in doing that. And then this other one is put on by Lindsay Plum, this Black is the New Red. It's about conversations about finance and whatnot. And there's actually specialists in a bunch of different financial areas in there that participate. So it's quite interesting. And I don't know it from the inside, but I do strongly suspect that it works out quite well for those folks. So again, on the topic of social media, let's look at social media advertising. And one thing that's happened is clicks for social media advertising has gotten very expensive. So it is really hard now to do direct response ads in social media advertising. So if you're selling like a t-shirt or a collectible or something that might be in the $20 to $100 range, it's pretty much impossible to make a profit off that initial sale. between how expensive clicks have gotten and also the privacy restrictions around targeting. Techniques that used to work great just really don't anymore. But what can work is one thing is doing advertising with a great funnel and or messaging sequence afterwards. So, for example, if you do get somebody to click on a informational download and sign up for that, if you have a great follow-up system, maybe some marketing automation to do emails to them over time, that can work really well. And the other thing that can work well as well there on advertising is if you're basing your sort of budgeting and planning around the customer lifetime value of the customer that you're going to win. It's entirely possible that you're not going to make money on the initial sale. Whereas if you know that most people buy multiple times, you can absolutely afford to acquire a customer through this model. What I would say in terms of approaching it from that is that it does take a pretty decent budget and commitment to make that happen. And if you're in a position where you don't actually know for sure what a customer is worth over their lifetime, you're probably not ready for that to happen. That's usually with companies that are a bit more mature, a bit bigger, and understand that a customer over their lifetime is worth $500 or $1,000 or $5,000, whatever that number is. And then, of course, you need to have the resources to invest in winning the customer, knowing that the return is going to happen over time. Also, there are great opportunities still in social media advertising to advertise for awareness and branding. That can be done very cost effectively. So if it's of large value to be known within a certain market, just a ton of opportunity to do that cost effectively. Again, probably not going to see direct return on investment, but if you're somebody that knows that it is of value to be prominent and known within a neighborhood, within a region, or within a city, definitely opportunities to do that. Or even an audience that might be scattered globally, but with a very specific interest. So just some examples that are here. Like this is all stuff that showed up yesterday in my feed. A standard operating procedures toolkit. It actually has a low intro offer. I think it's $3 to sign up. So you do that without even thinking about it. Then they have a very sophisticated sequencing of messaging and emails that comes after that. Over on the right is sort of a thought leadership / lead magnet download. So for this ZoomInfo thing, I didn't sign up for it, but I can pretty much guarantee that if I signed up to download that they would have a well thought out sequence of communications and emails to get me into a paid offer. This True Classic t-shirt ad you see sort of in the middle there is a great example of a customer lifetime value ad. I get a bunch of these from different manufacturers. And essentially, there's no way that they've made money off me. I have actually bought a couple shirts recently, which is why I see all these ads, I'm sure. But there's absolutely no way that they're making money from me at this point. But again, they will have calculated their customer lifetime value and they'll know what a typical customer is worth. So they're willing to invest more than they're making right now for that long-term thing. And then in terms of that awareness example and different ways of approaching things, I've got a couple LinkedIn targeting screenshots in the middle here. And this is actually from an experiment that we did internally back last summer, where we wanted to target lawyers in small firms. And so we identified that there were 7,600 lawyers in Canada that were in firms between 1 and 10 people in size, which was the audience we're trying to reach. Very affordable to do that. Costs in the low hundreds, not thousands of dollars to reach all those people through LinkedIn. And then the other sort of clip that you see there where it says legal single image clickers and then legal video, and this is all in the past year, video at 25%. This is these are both remarketing audiences where we selected engagement thresholds that if somebody showed a certain amount of interest in watching a video, in this case beyond 25%, or if they clicked on the image ad, they're then added to a remarketing audience. So that's kind of a different, another way of doing a bit of a funnel is doing some fairly low cost advertising to a very specific audience and then dialing in on those people who actually chose to engage and then marketing to them over time. Still some great opportunities there. Clicking along. Email marketing. Well, spamming has been pretty much dead for years, although it seems like more and more people are doing it. I'm sure there are some folks that will argue with me that cold outreach does still work in email. But to that I would answer, I mean, it technically can, but you basically have to develop a skill set of learning how to reach tens of thousands of people. And for most businesses, I think the damage that that's going to do to your brand outweighs any possible sales value you're going to get out of it. What does work though still, I mean, email marketing is very cost effective. It's fairly straightforward once you learn a couple things about it. So well thought out email marketing to customers is great. And then we spoke a little bit about sequences, talking about the social media advertising. Marketing automation can work really well if you think it through. Again, if you have some sort of download or lead magnet that people sign up for, and then you have an automated sequence that kicks in over a period of time, or any number of ways of engaging with people to start a conversation and then continue delivering them information that they'll want to receive. Yeah, marketing automation can work quite well. Although, again, I would quickly mention, I wouldn't underestimate how complex that is to set up. It does definitely take some work. So content marketing, again, rest in peace to low quality posts. There are still tons of people doing them, tons of companies doing them. For a while, there was a thought in the industry that's like, oh, if I just publish content, I'll get traffic. My site will show up better in search. And so there was a whole industry that came out around providing low quality posts to put in blogs to ostensibly win this traffic. It never really worked. I mean, I know in theory, there are companies that did raise their search presence through doing it, but I don't know of a single example where somebody can tell me that, yeah, we posted a bunch of garbage content, improved our search results, and then got clients from it. Because this is the thing, if somebody comes to your site, even if they did find you in search, if they come to the site and read a piece of garbage content, they're not likely to become clients. That said, high quality posts definitely still work. I love the whole concept of thought leadership and identifying an audience and establishing yourself as a thought leader in that area. It's something I've engaged in, and a lot of colleagues and friends have done it quite successfully as well. And that is something that works, putting great information out there and then making sure it gets in front of the right people. Entertaining content works great. Of course, written works great, which is kind of where I sort of fall back on, but there's a lot of folks doing really exciting things in video right now, between Instagram and TikTok exploding, and then YouTube introducing their shorts, which have gone huge. Lots of opportunities. Then and of course, again, the one thing is the if you build it, they will come thought. Sadly doesn't happen. You need to have a really well thought out promotion plan of how you're going to get this valuable information in front of the right people. You need to execute on that, learn it, refine it, and ideally search engine optimization and a conversion strategy of, well, how will these people actually become customers after reading my content? What can I do to encourage them to engage with us? Thoughts like that, which are often overlooked in the whole content marketing process. But with those things lined up, it absolutely can and does work well. So search advertising, this again is near and dear to my heart, and that's the area that I've been most excited about in our own agencies. and have put the biggest investment in time and energy into. I love sort of the immediacy of it and the data-driven nature of it, and also I guess the competition, if competitive element. If you devote yourself to doing better than the competition, you win, and you get more clients, you get cheaper clicks, all that stuff. That said, it's an interesting situation right now because Google is pretty much forcing campaigns to go very broad. And by broad, I mean like if you're an electrician and you're bidding on things like terms like, say, electrician near me, or electrician to install solar panels, very specific stuff like that, Google is automatically making those go very broad, so that in that solar example, like a search that was just somebody searched maybe just solar panels, your ad would show up for that and you get charged if somebody clicked. However, that's somebody very early in the information gathering process. And in that case, they might be looking at DIY, they might be deciding whether to buy solar panels in the first place. They're nowhere near ready to pay somebody to install them. So long and the short of it, if you sign up for a Google Search Ads account, go with the automatic sort of account setup, it almost certainly isn't going to work. And partially is Google's interests are at odds with our interests as business owners, in that we want the best traffic for the cheapest amount of money, and Google wants basically the most people to click so that you pay the most amount of money. But what does still work is there are ways of actually focusing on those very specific, very high intent keywords. That said, it's a fair bit of work and optimization to overcome the way Google is currently trying to show ads. But nonetheless, it can and does work quite well. And just here's, again, a couple more examples of advertising like in this example, heat pump installer Victoria. You'll notice the only results that are visible on the first page are ads. So, I mean, they're very prominent. A lot of people will kind of begrudge that, well, that's not fair. My sort of SEO content should show up. It shouldn't be ads first. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that, but that's the way it is. So if you want to compete in that area, you really have to look at ads. And then another example, I Googled for stock photo site, which is sort of not a local one. So the results look a bit different and we don't see the map or anything, but still the first two results and the absolute bulk of the first page is dedicated to paid ads. And wherever you see sponsored, it's paid ads. And interestingly, down below, I think I have that window open. I will just see if I can jump to it. Yeah, kind of funny. And that even in here in the Google business profiles that show up next to the map, we refer to the Google 3-pack, which are the 3 results that show up. There's even a sponsored ad showing up in there, which is easily enough to pay for and get in and jump the queue, if you will. Oh, there we go. So some emerging and evolving areas. We talked in the description about TikTok. TikTok definitely isn't an emerging area anymore. It's pretty much fully emerged. But that said, the principles that kind of have worked well for folks in TikTok are very similar to any of the platforms. Essentially, if you're a marketer, what you want to do is identify where there's a large enough population of your audience that's participating. And that's where sometimes a new thing like TikTok might be more advantageous than, say, Instagram, because there's no competition on it yet. There might be less. Well, let's just say I was targeting in-house marketers in companies that I was hoping that we might work with. In that example, I could find tons on LinkedIn, but there will be a ton of other people competing for their attention. Maybe there's almost nobody on a platform like TikTok or whatever the newest one is that's coming out. So that's where the opportunity lies, is moving at just that right moment where there's an audience, but it hasn't been dominated by competition yet. And my favorite example on TikTok is this Miss Excel. who's a woman who does, you don't think of TikTok as being the place to go for Excel information, but yet here she is with closing in on 1 million followers. Also a great example of she's quite entertaining as well as a thought leader and expert in what she does. So she's got it all going on with the balance of entertainment and information. So yeah, Excel lessons on TikTok, and she does have an Excel training empire now, I would pretty much call it. So definitely worked for her. Again, bit of an art to identifying those opportunities, but it can definitely work. Influencer marketing is something that's been around for a long time. I mean, I think of even one of the startups I worked in the early 2000s. We spent time identifying sort of bloggers and folk who we could send product to who would try it out, possibly use it, and write about it. And this influencer marketing, I mean, it can work for all sorts of industries, but it's great for things like lifestyle and fashion, or areas where search marketing is not ideal. And I see this all the time. If we have folks that have, for instance, selling art, or again, selling fashion, and there's just people aren't Googling it. They're not thinking, oh, I need yet another sweater to sit unworn in my closet. But rather, if the right thing shows up in front of them, they will absolutely be willing to purchase. So again, that's where my favorite area of search marketing does not work for those type of companies and markets. So in that case, you may not be able to afford big influencers, but I've seen folks have a lot of success in aggregating a stable of smaller influencers to promote their products. And even in that case, even if you're just starting, there's probably some local folk that don't even consider themselves influencers at this point, but they might be bloggers, where there's lots of opportunities for partnership. And again, especially in some of the niches, the right influencer, of course, you're not going after the huge ones, but the right niche influencer can be a big help without costing a fortune. In fact, I'm showing a couple examples from the sort of cycling industry. The one on the right is a fellow named Brett Tippie, who's a longtime sort of celebrity in the sport, but does some relatively smaller influencer. He's got a whole portfolio of companies that he does small gigs with and makes actually a very good living doing it. But that's an example where a small mid-sized company would be able to afford to engage with someone like that to have them promote their products. And then below, there's another company called Crank Brothers, which does mountain biking components and accessories. They actively look for folks to they basically trade them product to post photos and that sort of thing from races and whatnot. A million different variations depending on the industry. And then our last slide, and this is awesome. I hadn't timed a practice session of this, but we are actually right on time, so I'm very excited. Artificial intelligence. So question comes up, is AI ready for prime time? And it's kind of interesting. We hear all these stories of people just killing it using AI. I think at this point, a lot of those things are still stories. And one thing, as well as sort of somebody who tries to be a thought leader and arguably, well, I am a thought leader in digital marketing areas, or you wouldn't be on here. But that said, I think there's a lot of room as thought leaders to continue to beat AI, just in that by definition, AI is not original. So if you are somebody that has enough knowledge of your area or industry to share original thoughts or predict trends or that sort of thing, you do have a leg up, and you are going to still be able to be relevant. That said, not to pick on AI, I do fear that it could make changes that could affect our companies ridiculously dramatically in the coming years. Again, I think that's where you need to be ready to see what's happening and adapt to it before it overwhelms. But again, with AI, there are some major efficiencies that you can absolutely leverage now. I mean, as an example, I used to write a ton. I don't really write for clients ever anymore, but I wrote some service pages for a friend last year, and I'm not ashamed to admit that a writer's block couldn't get started. So I actually just asked AI, crafted a prompt that would get reasonable information, gave a couple of sample sites of similar sites, and it wrote out a whole draft. I basically just used that as an outline. I just set to work on rewriting each paragraph, and quite honestly, in about half the time it usually would take, or possibly a tenth the time when suffering from a writer's block, sort of ended up doing some good posts there. I spoke just the other day with someone who runs a large agency, and they basically now use AI to create the drafts of all their posts, and then customize them and make them their own. I'm not necessarily recommending that because there are some potential legal issues that are going to come out, but that is a viable thing that folks do. In terms of that too, AI can generally be detected, which is also why I don't think it's a great idea using it for posts if you are hoping to rank for search. And it's funny too that the same person who I was chatting with who leverages AI for drafts, they also run any submitted applications and cover letters through AI, and they have been totally shocked to find out just how many people are submitting information that's almost totally AI driven. They've even found applicants doing an online sort of exercise where they fill things in, who apparently are in the background using AI and copying and pasting AI written content into this process of doing the information gathering there. So suffice to say, they don't hire those folks. Some other areas that can work quite well is the starting work for gathering and analyzing keywords or competitor research. Again, you kind of really need, this is best leveraged by somebody who is already skilled, but uses it to speed up their workflow. You can draft ads in specific tones. You can even give AI like websites or pages or authors or writers and tell it to follow their style. And the results are actually surprisingly good. Again, it does need a human in there to sort of tweak it at the end. People are using it for QA for writing code, and some people are even writing draft code with it. Another area I'm keen to look at myself is also a little further is that of stylized photos. In that it's so hard to get a whole team together, I kind of think it would be fun to have our team get photos from our team and then use AI to make them a similar style for an about page and that sort of thing. So in short, while AI may not be spitting out market-ready work at the moment, it can definitely save countless hours of work, and you really don't want to dismiss it. It is the future, so definitely you want to keep an eye on it and understand how that affects things. So that's it for the formal presentation. I'm really glad we got everybody on here. If you've got to run, absolutely please do, but we will touch on some Q&A in a moment. Coming up, we're going to move to a quarterly webinar schedule. So watch out for our survey, or if you have topics you want to address, feel free to get in touch with me directly. And of course, we really love to answer questions and chat about working together. This is my email address. Feel free to reach out. I also like connecting with folks from our webinars on LinkedIn, or feel free to email directly. And with that said, Taylor, can we open the Q&A, and then and if that's not working for some reason, we can just take questions via chat if there are any questions. There were a couple folks that submitted questions up front. The first one, I think I already answered around, should I use ChatGPT for my blog posts? I would say for research, for drafts, or for ideas, yes. For original content that you're hoping to win customers with and sort of boost your SEO, probably not. Another question that somebody had was whether Facebook has kind of reached MySpace status these days, and whether it's totally dead. Again, I would say no. It's certainly not the preeminent platform that it once was, but there's still a whole lot of users on there, especially sort of a bit of an older demographic, like myself. And yeah, you're not going to probably reach a teenage demographic or even a 20-something demographic on there, but there are still a lot of folks on there, so definite opportunities. I see a couple more questions coming in. Thanks, Jack, for the compliment. And then Michelle asked if it's okay to use GPT for Instagram captions. I would say absolutely, with just the same answer. I would more use it for inspiration and then tweak it a little bit to, at least a little bit, to personalize it. Yeah, and then yeah, determine if it is actually saving you time or not. With a fairly short caption, it might not, but then again, if it does, that's awesome. And I see Sarah asking a question. Hey, Sarah. Can you use blogs on multiple sites? For instance, using a contractor's blog on your business site, or should it always be unique? That's an awesome question. And there's no reason to not have blog posts on multiple sites. The one thing that you should be aware of, though, is that one of the sites, most likely only one of the sites, will get indexed for it. And that is usually, and what that means is if somebody, so if, I know Sarah's an athletic therapist, so if somebody Googles about a post on athletic therapy, probably only one of those posts is going to come up in Google search results. Sometimes a second might come up, but usually it's just one. Google doesn't like to show duplicate content. So if it's clearly the same thing, only one instance will come up in search, which means that that only the one site is being boosted in SEO on the basis of that post. But there's no, so for informational purposes, no reason not to do it. For practical purposes, it's usually either the bigger, more established site that ranks, or sometimes the first site to post the information. So that's some food for thought. I know in our case, sometimes with the two companies, we do a lot of the same posts on both websites. And then for a while, we've been using like a no index tag and that sort of thing to try and make sure that it was going to the right one. But that's how we don't bother doing that anymore. If it's important that it shows up on one site versus another, usually we just make sure that that's the first site it's posted on and wait until we see it indexed before we post it anywhere else. So I hope that helped. And I see Michelle has asked, is there one platform, brackets, for example, LinkedIn, that helps your SEO more than another? That's a tough question. So all the social platforms use what are called no follow links, which mean, and this goes back to the old days. Again, this is thinking back to, we did a lot of outreach in one of the early startups I was in the early 2000s. And at that time, folks would do tons of link spam. They'd go to bulletin boards, they'd go to social media platforms, and they'd post links, because the more links that Google sees to your site, the better, as long as they're good quality links from legitimate places. So what happened is that there was actually this no follow tag that's actually now embedded in the code on all of these public platforms. And what that means is that any links from those platforms, the platform is telling Google not to follow that link or not to consider that link. So essentially, Google discounts the value of those links. So long story short, links from places like LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, they do have some SEO value, but it's not hugely significant. What's really more important though is figuring out which platform will actually get traffic to your site. Definitely finding other sites that like other blogs that might be willing to link to your content is great, and that really helps raise things up. But really, from a linking perspective, probably the first for posts, traffic through a variety of reasons boosts SEO. So I would focus more on traffic and picking the most appropriate platform that will get you traffic than worrying about the technical SEO stuff on it. And this is great. I think we might be at the end of our questions. Anyone else that has a last one before we break? Just all right. Well, with that said, thanks everybody for attending, especially those of you that hung out for the Q&A, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.